You are not going to believe this one. It's entitled HOA President. A woman we're calling Patty the Paint Can Predator thought she had the authority to issue a violation. It's on a law enforcement vehicle. But she didn't just write a ticket. She used bright neon orange spray paint to graffiti the violation directly onto the side of a marked County Sheriff's Department pickup truck. The deputy driving it, he was undercover, running a deep investigation, and she had just committed a major felony. The fallout, devastating. She ended up in the back of a patrol car, screaming obscenities as her kingdom crumbled around her. Stay tuned to see exactly how this self-appointed tyrant was finally brought to justice. What is up, drama fam? Welcome back to the channel where we expose the worst neighbors in America. Do you love seeing justice served ice cold? If you hate power-tripping Karens, then do me a huge favor. Smash that like button right now and click subscribe. Let's dive into the most outrageous story of HOA tyranny you will ever hear. We're calling this one Paint It Blacklist. The setup, the community of Willow Creek was, by all accounts, a quiet slice of suburban Havana, haven of manicured lawns and identical mailboxes. The only blight on this idyllic landscape was Patty Jenkins, the unelected self-appointed president of the Willow Creek HOA. Patty didn't just manage the rules. She was the rules, wielding her laminated clipboard like a royal scepter. Our protagonist is Deputy Mark Stevens, an exceptional officer with the County Sheriff's Department. Mark had recently bought a home in Willow Creek, but his life wasn't just picket fences and barbecues. Mark was currently running a high-stakes, long-term operation, investigating a series of property crimes in the area. For this operation, his official, clearly marked, but discreetly parked Sheriff's Department pickup was absolutely critical. The next morning, Mark pulled into his driveway, exhausted but victorious from a night of police work, and stopped dead. His heart didn't just sink, it plummeted into the concrete. The sight was absolutely jaw-dropping. Patty, in a spectacular display of unchecked hubris, had taken a can of neon orange spray paint, the type used for marking utility lines, and vandalized his official vehicle. Scrawled across the passenger side door, right over the Sheriff's Department crest, were the words, HOA violation. Tow imminent. Move your truck. The paint was thick, permanent, and utterly ruined the expensive, highly specialized matte coating required for covert operations. This wasn't just a fine or a nasty note. This was malicious destruction of government property, a felony, and a direct obstruction of a law enforcement operation. Mark felt a cold, white-hot fury, unlike anything he'd experienced. He was an officer of the law, sworn to protect and serve, and this woman had just actively damaged county property and interfered with his duties, all over a perceived parking infraction. He immediately radioed his captain. The conversation was terse, sharp, and incredulous. Mark was ordered to secure the scene, photograph the damage, and do nothing. The investigation unit would handle this as a felony vandalism case against a public employee. Within the hour, a uniformed captain arrived, followed shortly by 2 detectives and a crime scene unit. The neighborhood, of course, was in absolute chaos. Neighbors, who had long suffered under Patty's tyrannical reign, came out in droves, pointing fingers and murmuring their relief that someone was finally holding her accountable. The detectives quickly interviewed Mark and the stunned neighbors. Patty, however, was nowhere to be found. She had retreated into her fortress, smugly believing she had simply enforced the rules. She even emailed the HOA board, crowing about her necessary and decisive action to protect the aesthetic integrity of the community. That emailed her own written confession was the final devastating piece of evidence the detectives needed. But the immediate gut-wrenching consequence for Mark was that his operation was now compromised. The vehicle, which was essential for the covert nature of his work, was ruined and had to be taken out of service immediately. The delay caused by Patty's monstrous act allowed a crucial suspect to slip away, a devastating blow to months of police work. Mark was furious. The captain was incandescent, and the only thing they could do right now was wait. The paperwork was filed, the warrant was issued, and the net was about to drop. Mark felt utterly helpless, watching his professional life get derailed by a woman obsessed with the color of his lawn furniture. She had committed an actual crime over a fake one, and now it was time for the real consequences to begin. The following day, with the spray-painted truck now at the forensics lab, the detectives returned, accompanied by a county marshal. This was not an HOA disciplinary meeting. This was a criminal enforcement action. They pulled up to Patty's house, and the marshal, having the necessary arrest warrant signed by a judge, banged loudly on the door. Patty, initially confident, opened the door in her bathrobe, clipboard in hand, ready to issue a fine for unauthorized noise. Her smug expression evaporated instantly when the marshal read her the Miranda rights and placed her in handcuffs. She began to scream, her voice tearing through the quiet suburb. "You can't do this. I'm the president. This is HOA business. You're violating my rights." The marshal simply responded, "Ma'am, you are under arrest for felony vandalism and obstruction of justice." The sight of Patty being physically escorted out, fighting the handcuffs, still trying to find the marshal for inappropriate uniform, was the moment the entire community had been waiting for. The detectives seized her computer, finding not just the incriminating email, but a massive trove of documents detailing years of alleged financial mismanagement, unauthorized fines, and the abuse of HOA funds for personal benefit. The charges quickly piled up: felony vandalism, obstruction of justice, and several counts of wire fraud related to the unauthorized fines. Marcus' operation was saved when he was immediately reassigned a new vehicle and given the green light to continue. His investigation, now fueled by a personal sense of justice, the resolution wasn't just Mark getting his revenge, it was the entire community being freed. Within hours of her arrest, the sheriff's department released a carefully worded statement confirming that the vehicle was official. The damage was criminal, and the suspect was in custody. Patty's reign of terror was over, replaced by the sound of her own terrified shrieks as she was processed downtown. The tyranny had been overthrown not by a committee, but by the swift hand of the law. The fallout for Patty was immediate and catastrophic. She was booked and released on a substantial bond, facing multiple years in prison. The video of her arrest, filmed by a neighbor who had suffered her wrath for a decade, went instantly viral, leading to an emergency HOA board meeting without her, of course. The board, now desperate to save face and avoid civil liability, unanimously voted to strip Patty of all authority, ban her from the board for life, and issue a formal public apology to Deputy Stevens. The true payback, however, came from the civil side. Deputy Stevens, with the full backing and legal resources of the county sheriff's department, filed a massive civil suit against Patty personally for the cost of the vehicle replacement, the interruption to the official investigation, and punitive damages. The long-term aftermath was a beautiful, slow-motion demolition of Patty's entire life. Due to the mounting legal costs and the massive civil judgment, Patty was forced to put her meticulously maintained house up for sale. Mark, though successful in his original property crime investigation, still felt the sting of her petty malice. He made one final satisfying move. Knowing exactly how much Patty hated his truck, he waited until the day of the open house. When dozens of potential buyers, agents, and neighbors were milling about, he pulled his new, officially marked sheriff's department vehicle right into his driveway. But this time, he made sure to park it exactly 1 inch closer to the curb than Patty's original self-appointed boundary. It was a silent, perfect taunt. Later that week, an unexpected development solidified her ruin. The HOA, now under sane leadership, discovered a rarely enforced bylaw. Any board member found guilty of a felony while in office must permanently sell their home and move out of the development within 90 days of the conviction. Patty, having entered a plea deal on the fraud and vandalism charges, was now a convicted felon. She was officially legally banned from Willow Creek. The board, delighted, enforced the rule immediately. The final spectacular moment of victory came on closing day. Mark, standing on his porch, watched as the moving van pulled away. But before it could leave the development, the newly elected, reasonable HOA president, who had been heavily fined by Patty years prior for an unapproved bird feeder, approached the van. The president handed the driver a document, a final, legitimate HOA violation notice for failure to remove unauthorized debris spray paint can found in Patty's shrubbery, and a final non-negotiable $50 fine, payable immediately to the HOA's restitution fund. Patty, visible through the passenger window, could only glare, helpless, as the driver pulled out his wallet and paid the fine, just to get the truck moving. The community cheered. Mark just smiled. The paint can predator was gone for good. The sheriff had finally won the pettiest war in history. That, my friends, is how you deal with an HOA tyrant. A total, complete, and utterly satisfying victory. Did Patty deserve every single minute of her humiliation? Let me know in the comments below what you thought was the most shocking part of this story. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic HOA drama and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next devastating tale. See you in the next one.